touch on, how when y'all came into the knowledge of the kingdom, how that kind of influenced you. Did your view of self change? I guess I can say that once you came into the knowledge of the kingdom, or once you became born again, or so I'll just let Tori go if you want, or Alicia.
So, I would say, when I came into, because at first it was like how you look, like you were saying, Crystal, what you drive, what you wear, like, I put a lot into, the outward man. And, I actually hid a lot of my confidence behind like my degree. And at that time I was doing organization and just stuff that I was accomplishing on the outside. And when when I got saved for real, and really just came into the knowledge and understanding, who I was and what I was, it almost felt like my life was upside down. Like, I almost just felt like I had to relearn everything, like, about myself. Because I remember talking to Dr. Larry about it. I was like, I don't even know what to do. And I just remember he was like, that's a good spot to be in. But I just was like, it was really hard because I had to really like make an exchange on everything. Like, I prided like my cell phone going to college, having a degree, having that career, like doing that whole thing. And then all of a sudden I'm realizing, okay, that stuff, it doesn't, almost like a false confidence, And so, and it's something that, what was it? What is the scripture? Oh, it's escaping me. It really like, maybe y'all can help me out on it. It's not love thy neighbor as thyself. Is it love thy neighbor as thyself? Yes, that's what it was. Sorry. So when I read that, I was like, wait, he's telling me to love myself. He's telling me that I can't, I got to love myself before I love my neighbors. And I was like, oh, that's a principle. And so when I realized that, and I started just seeing like how confident I wasn't, how low my self-esteem was. I didn't even realize, my self-esteem was that low, and how much stuff, like how many layers, that I was just hiding behind. And one thing that, and I really went through this, like, I know we've been talking a lot about doubt through our scripture study on Thursdays and Sundays. And just really just understanding how many self-defeating thoughts you can have and don't even realize it. And just how I was hiding behind those thoughts, but telling myself, oh, I'm being honest with myself, or oh, I'm being real with myself, and really I was just beating myself up, and I wasn't confident in who I was. I didn't understand my gifts. And one thing that I realized, I was like, I know I have these gifts, but until I'm confident in those gifts, it doesn't matter who sees those gifts. It doesn't matter what anybody else, on the outside says about it. You got to be confident in the ability that the Father gave you, because scripture tells you, do not cast away your confidence. And so it's really, I'll give it to Alicia at this point, because I feel like
don't give it to me. That was good. Y'all are killing me. Y'all just like, y'all really be okay. I'm sorry. That was really good. There were a lot of things. I was taking notes as you were talking, like, okay, yep. Because I be forgetting like all the things I be trying to say. I'm working on my memory. But anyway, there was so much. I'm like, ooh, don't forget to say that. But anyway, get into it. So, confidence. First of all, Crystal, that was a great way that you posed the question. Like, did your view of self change? How did it change? And Tori, I was going to say the same thing you did. It was a whole lot to exchange because, kind of as you were referencing, Crystal, the way that the world views confidence and those sorts, like, that ain't nothing over in Kingdom.
Right.
So it really is a wake-up call. And I went through something very similar, Tori, when I began to realize, like, oh my goodness, my self-worth and my self-confidence is tied to my accomplishments. It's tied to how much I have done. And when I'm not doing a whole lot, I don't feel good about myself. And so I remember when I graduated, so I had let me see. First of all, I had never not been in school. I could have just been a student as a profession. So I remember, I had got my bachelor's, and then I pretty much went straight into getting my master's. I was working full time. I was, doing a lot of stuff in the community, doing stuff with the ministry. Like, I was just busy all the time, busy, go, go, go. And I remember when I ended up getting pregnant with our son. and that's when I had to make a huge transition. Demetri was like, yeah, so about that degree you just got, I think you need to be at home. So I, ended up doing that. And then I found myself like, wait a minute, this is weird. Like, I have time. And really what had happened, I had time to think. I could like hear my thoughts. It was too silent for me. I was so used to being so busy. And then that's when the enemy tried to come in, because I realized, like, wow, I feel terrible. Like, I'm not doing anything. And I was so like caught up in the do and the no. And so to make a long story shorter, relearning, that is so, so important. As you were saying, Tori, like just making that exchange, learning what confidence is. And I'm so glad you mentioned even like your gifts, because there were a lot of things that, and giftings that I knew I had, but I also felt like I always had to minimize who I was and my gifts and my personality and all the things that the Father blessed me with, because it would make other people uncomfortable. And I am still learning how to not do that, to be bold as a lion. That's what the scripture tells us to do. Like, be who you are. That's who I created you to be. Don't try to minimize that. Stand firm on that. And so, it's like I said, that is something I'll be transparent about. Like, I'm still learning to apply that, because first of all, people will probably even like hearing the way that we live and the things like that, like, what do they got, going on? But being confident and standing on that, like, that's important. So that's where my mind went when you asked that question.
I want to ask you a question about that, Alicia. Like, how does that process, look for you? Yeah, like, not minimizing yourself, and, I guess, like, yeah. Does my question make sense?
How does it look?
Transitioning to where you're going, I guess.
Well, one thing is not focusing on other people. I think that's a huge issue in itself.
Right.
Because again, and that is a sign of low self-confidence versus learning who I am, who the Father created me to be, and just being it. Like, and actually I've learned that links so much to the do, because this is another thing about me. I am a task list person. And basically, if I have a really productive day, like, I'm like, ooh, like, I'm pumped. Like, and it's so funny because Demetrius was teaching on like what do you call them? Like, in dopamine, serotonin, those sorts of things, basically like the feel good hormones or whatever. I feel really good and the best when I get a lot done. So again, I have to watch that, because I don't want to allow that, because I know that, first of all, I have to focus on who I am, no matter if I check 5 things off the list or 1. Like, it's not about that. I'm trying to put it into words, but essentially, like, unpeeling that off. Like, the Father created me to be who I am, and I just be, versus what I have to do. And oh gosh, I'm trying to make it come out, but to make it make sense, because at the same time, I'm not referring to like you don't just do crazy stuff. Right. So I don't know. Help me out, because I don't know if I'm communicating what I'm trying to communicate clearly.
I know, Will, maybe if I share this, maybe this will like kind of help bring your point out. Because I know one thing, me and DJ were actually just talking about how you mentioned comparing yourselves and, really understanding who you are. And we were talking about it. And then he flipped it on me, y'all. I was like, this is not fun. But we were talking about, what we should be doing in our gifts and things like that. And I was like, well, one thing, like you sure said, he was about his Father's business. And I was like, what we as ambassadors need to make sure we're doing, we need to be so focused on our Father's business and, doing what He's called us to do and being who He wants us to be. We don't have time to even make that comparison. Because I know I find myself now, like if I find a, I guess, self-defeating thought, I tell myself, nope, my spirit didn't tell me that. My spirit said I can. My spirit said I can do all things. And, just really, and it's almost like and like this is something I'm still working through, is like being comfortable with my gifts. I don't know if that, makes sense. And because, with being a stay-at-home mom, it's almost like me personally, I feel like I wasn't using any of my gifts. But like just as the homeschooling is coming up and doing our business, I'm like, whoa, I am using, these gifts and just making sure that I'm in a good spot mentally, my confidence and things like that to teach my daughter. So I don't know if that kind of helped hone in on your point, Alicia. I mean, I get it, but yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Crystal, what do you have before I can talk 25 more minutes?
What came to mind when y'all were talking was validation, like seeking validation in the Father, going to the Father. And I literally, I believe it was Pastor that told us, but I literally do just in prayer, I'll be like, okay, Lord, did I make you proud? Not did I make, my husband proud? Did I make my mama proud? Did I make my kids happy? It's like, Lord, am I making you happy? Am I really walking this walk the way you want me to? Like, that's my desire. So I don't want to get off course looking at, and like you said, comparing myself to others or seeking validation from other people who just don't have that power of letting me know who I am. He's the Father is the one who lets us know who we are. And for the longest time, like in religion, they'll say, you're beautifully and wonderfully made and all of that. But me personally, when I would hear that, I'm like, okay, I hear that, but I don't feel that all the time. Like, so how do I feel that all the time? How do I see myself the way the Father sees me? Because I don't see that all the time. Sometimes I don't feel my best that day, or so I would just be like, well, how do you actually do this? I know what the scripture says, but how do I do it? And just coming into the knowledge of the kingdom and really realizing, okay, in order to do that, you have to have a relationship with the Father. You have to be led by the Father. You have to hear him and be able to discern his voice. And me personally, the more I hear from the Father and the more obedient I become, the more confident and in my walk with him I become.
Yeah.
So